Welcome. Imagine yourself waking, not in the comfort of a bed, but on a hard, splintering wooden bench. Your legs are stretched forward, your ankles clasped in iron. You're below deck, deep within the hull of a Roman trireme. It's dark here. Dim lanterns sway gently overhead, casting soft yellow light onto rows of motionless forms, men like you, seated in perfect formation. 40 oars on each side, 3 stacked tiers, one above the other, and above all, silence, save for the sound of creaking timbers and breathing. Shallow, measured, resigned. You're a remixing oarsman in the Roman Navy. You weren't born into it. Perhaps you were captured in war, condemned for a crime, or simply too poor to refuse. Now you live your life at sea, not on it, but inside it. Beneath the deck, beneath the command, beneath history itself. Your hands are already calloused. You learned quickly that the long oar's grip is unforgiving. Smooth, yes, but always rough with dried salt. Your palms ache constantly, the skin splits. And still you row. Rowing is not a rhythmic meditation. Not here. It is labor, precise, coordinated. Every stroke measured not by your own pace, but by the hortator, the man with the drum or flute. His beat is your master now. When he plays slow, you row slow. When he picks up the pace, your heartbeat must follow. The air around you is heavy. Not hot exactly, but thick. Saturated with the scent of sweat and damp timber. There is no wind below deck. No reprieve. Your tunic sticks to your skin. You shift your weight slightly, only to feel the crusted salt and sawdust chafing beneath you. There are rules, unspoken but enforced. Don't stop rowing. Don't speak unless spoken to, and don't complain if you falter. The Navarchus, the commanding officer, does not intervene himself. He has men for that. The centurions, naval centurions, patrol with authority, bark orders, and carry whips. Not ceremonial, not idle. Food comes when it comes. A bowl of grain mush, perhaps a hunk of hardtack that's been soaked in warm seawater. It's chewy, dry, faintly sour. Water, too, is warm. Stored in clay jars, rationed. And sleep, if you can call it that, comes in short stretches. Curled on the same bench where you rowed, you close your eyes, knowing that rats scurry through the lower decks at night. They, too, are used to this rhythm. Now and then, the ship docks. Perhaps in a harbor in Sicily, or on the coast of Illyria. You're allowed above deck. Your eyes squint against the sunlight. It's beautiful out here, breathtaking even, but you do not belong to it. Your world is below. Punishment, when it comes, is not shouted. It's simple. A missed beat, a dropped oar, you may be lashed. Repeated offenses might see you transferred to another ship. Or, in extreme cases, chained permanently your wrists as well as your ankles. Yet in this world, there is a kind of order, a rhythm. Days blur into one another. Row, eat, sleep, row again. The boat itself is a living thing. Its hull groaning, sails flapping gently when raised, oars slicing through the sea in perfect unison. Occasionally, a battle comes. You prepare differently for those days. The drumbeat changes. The officers move with urgency. The rowers do not fight. You are the engine. The ship becomes a ram in your body. Your labor is what drives it forward into another hull. The impact is jarring. Sometimes you feel it in your teeth. Sometimes ships don't come back from those battles, but yours does, at least today. Rank has meaning here. Above deck, the Marines are trained to fight. They sleep in better quarters, eat better rations, And then there are the officers' men with clean tunics, silver jewelry, and the luxury of speaking softly. You are not one of them, but still, the ship moves. Still, it sails. You row not because you believe in Rome, but because you must. Because the sea has taken you, and the rhythm of your life is no longer yours. The sea has always demanded order, and so in this wooden machine, that order is kept. Day after day, stroke after stroke, the ship moves forward. And you remain. Now, let the waves carry us forward in time. You've left the oar behind. Tonight, you are no longer a nameless rower in the dark. You are in the company of kings and queens, of generals and empires. And you stand at the edge of a turning point, a moment when history cracked quietly in half. We are sailing now to 31 BCE. The waters are warm, but tense, the Ionian Sea off the coast of Greece. This is the calm before the Battle of Actium, a confrontation that would end a dynasty, forge an empire, and change the course of the ancient world. But first, let us drift backward, into the lives of two people bound by love, ambition, and fate. Cleopatra VII, not the caricature of legend, but the real queen. A polyglot, a scholar, a ruler trained from childhood in statecraft and survival. Her throne is delicate. Egypt, rich and alluring, is still technically independent, but only because Rome allows it. Cleopatra knows this. She plays politics like a musician reads music, precisely with flair. Then there is Marcus Antonius, Mark Antony. Once noble, now weary. Once brilliant, now desperate. He had shared control of Rome with Octavian, but their alliance had crumbled like sandcastles at low tide. He is now based in Egypt, not just with Cleopatra, but entangled in her world. Some Romans whisper that he's been bewitched. Others know better. He is losing his grip on power and needs her wealth, her navy, her grain, and perhaps her love too. The world is holding its breath. Two futures hang in the balance, one led by the steady, pragmatic Octavian, the adopted son of Caesar. The other by Antony and Cleopatra, now tied together by children, by vision, and by desperation. Preparing for war. The preparations are vast. Cleopatra brings over 60 warships, sleek, fast, many Egyptian built. Antony's fleet is larger, but heavier, slower. He has more troops, but they are weary, stretched thin from years of skirmishes. Octavian is calculating. Not as glamorous, not as charismatic, but efficient. His admiral, Agrippa, is a mastermind of naval warfare. And they don't need to defeat Antony in pitched battle. They simply need to corner him, wear him down, choke off his supplies. This is not just a war of ships. It is a war of time, of attrition, of morale. As the summer of 31 BCE unfolds, the fleets maneuver. Weeks pass, stalemates, disease, desertions. The sea grows restless, so do the men. And finally, on September 2nd, they meet. The Battle of Actium, imagine it now. The water churns with oars. The air is thick with the smell of pitch and salt and sweat. Orders are shouted. Drums pound. The horizon is dotted with sails. Over 400 ships face one another. Antony's and Cleopatra's in the Gulf. Octavian's in a crescent formation closing in. Antony's ships are larger, quinqueremes and hexers, almost floating fortresses. But size here is a burden. They cannot maneuver easily. Agrippa knows this. He exploits it. He strikes with speed, isolating Antony's center. Missiles fly. Ramming begins. The water itself becomes a weapon. Ships cornered, turned, trapped against each other. And then something unexpected. Or perhaps long planned. Cleopatra's fleet retreats. Her ships, possibly holding the treasury or simply avoiding the loss, sail straight through the chaos and flee south. Antony sees this and follows. Whether it was a strategic withdrawal or a personal decision made in panic, we may never know. But to the men left behind, it is a betrayal. Without leadership, Antony's fleet collapses. The battle is not a slaughter, but it is decisive. Octavian claimed victory without even needing a full engagement. Antony and Cleopatra are gone. Their armies surrender. The sea comes again. The end of a dynasty. In the months that follow, the story darkens. Antony, broken, wounded in pride and power, takes his own life. Cleopatra, cloistered in her mausoleum in Alexandria, follows soon after. Perhaps with a snake, perhaps by poison. Egypt becomes a Roman province. Octavian returns to Rome not just as a victor, but as Augustus, the first emperor. And so ends the story not just of two lovers, but of the final flicker of Hellenistic independence. The last queen of Egypt dies, and the Roman world is born anew. A soft reflection, the story of Actium is not merely about tactics and triumph, it is about the quiet unraveling of power. The way ambition fades into desperation. How history has changed not always with fire and noise, but with silence. Retreat and a single fateful decision to turn away. And now, as the sails are lowered and the oars rest against the hull, we drift onward, into mysteries buried deeper still beneath the sea. Let us now leave the beaten paths of history. The named battles, the marble statues, the lives of the known, and descend gently into the depths of forgotten seas. Our destination lies not in a palace or scroll, but on the ocean floor, rusted and ruined, where coral clings to bronze and saltwater cradles the memories of civilizations past. We are diving toward a shipwreck, discovered by accident in 1901, off the small Greek island of Antikythera. It was sponge divers who first glimpsed it. Not a ruin, not a structure, but a mechanism, corroded, fragmented, and impossible. It would come to be known as the Antikythera mechanism, a device so advanced, so intricate, and so anachronistic, that even now, it whispers questions that history can't fully answer. Discovery in the deep, you are drifting now, descending slowly through warm Mediterranean waters. The sunlight filters down, pale and blue. You move past fish and currents, ancient amphorae scattered like forgotten time capsules. And there, amid the remnants of a once proud Roman-era trading vessel, you see it. At first glance, it is nothing. A lump of greenish rock, fused with barnacles in time. But break it open, and something emerges. Bronze gears, teeth, dials, Greek inscriptions faintly scratched into its casing. A machine. Recovered carefully. Piece by fragile piece, the object is brought to the surface. Historians puzzle over it. Decades pass before X-rays and digital scans reveal the truth. This was no ornament, no trinket. It was a computer of a kind thought impossible for the ancient world. What it did, the Antikythera mechanism was designed, it seems, to predict the heavens. It could track the sun, the phases of the moon, the movements of the 5 known planets. It modeled eclipses. It calculated the timing of the ancient Olympic Games. It even accounted for the elliptical orbit of the moon, a detail so precise, it took modern astronomy centuries to rediscover. Turn a crank, and the gears would move in perfect ratios. Over 30 bronze wheels, handcrafted, machined together with staggering precision, all encased in a wooden box the size of a shoebox. All of this before the birth of Christ. Centuries before the clock. 1,000 years before gears would power European cathedrals. It should not have existed. But it did. Who made it? And why? The origin of the mechanism remains shrouded. The ship that carried it likely sank around 60 BCE, but the device itself may be older. Some believe it was created in the tradition of Archimedes, the legendary Syracusan mathematician who was said to have built similar devices. Others suspect a workshop in Rhodes, where the philosopher Posidonius studied astronomy. The craftsmanship points to a single brilliant artisan, or perhaps a lost school of engineering whose knowledge vanished before the Roman conquest. We do not know who ordered it. A wealthy patron? A king? A scholar? We do not know if it was singular or one of many. All we know is this: nothing else like it survives. What it means, the Antikythera mechanism is not just a curiosity, it is a reminder. It reminds us that history is not always linear, that civilizations rise and forget, that knowledge is not always lost in flames, but in indifference, that for every Leonardo, every Newton, there were others before them, thinkers whose names have been scoured clean by time and tide. It is also a quiet warning that brilliance alone does not guarantee survival. This device, so advanced, so elegant, was lost beneath the sea for 2,000 years. Unknown, unused, forgotten. And yet now, it sleeps no longer. In museums and labs, replicas are built. Researchers still translate its inscriptions. And every now and then, a new fragment is found, a new gear, a new whisper from the past. Tonight, we have drifted into the unknown, a place where rust meets revelation, where the stars once turned on tiny bronze teeth. Now let us rise again, slowly from the seabed, and emerge at last into a different world. One of power, of ceremony and luxury, a world above deck, above labor, above the noise of oars. You awake now in sunlight. Soft linen sheets, perfumed oils, a quiet hush broken only by the echo of sandals on mosaic floors. You are no longer a slave or sailor or soldier. You are a Roman senator, and the world around you is quieter, slower, but no less dangerous. Tonight, we are not walking among ruins. We are gliding through the palatial calm of the Roman elite, where the walls are painted with gods, where politics is whispered behind silk curtains, and where survival still depends on the sharpness of one S tongue more than one S sword. This is not the Rome of crumbling statues and worn-out cliches. This is Rome alive, humming with vanity, indulgence, and unease. Let's begin your day. Mornings of power, you rise before dawn, not out of labor, but out of habit. A senator is always being watched. Even your servant's yawns might be noted by someone. Slaves bring you warm water, oil for your skin, and trays of honeyed bread and olives. You put on your toga praetexta with its broad purple stripe, a garment so stiff, awkward, and symbolic it nearly immobilizes you. But that's the point. It marks you. You walk slowly, deliberately, to the Forum Romanum, accompanied by dozens of clients who trail behind you like whispers of your own importance. They depend on you for legal advice, food handouts, influence. In return, they bolster your status. You greet other senators, bow to statues, check for omens, the rustling of birds, the entrails of sacrificed animals. Today, there is a Senate session. It could be about taxation, a provincial rebellion, or just a long-winded debate about water law. Or perhaps it's all for show. Many decisions are already made in private, in villas or backrooms. Afternoons of performance. After the Senate comes leisure, or what passes for it. You are invited to a literary recitation, where a young poet reads 100 lines of flattery wrapped in metaphor. You nod politely, applaud, offer to fund the next reading. Later, a banquet. Not yet the hedonism of empire, but the subtle theater of Republican opulence. The couches are arranged, the wine is mixed with water, the food arrives in waves. Peacock, dormice, garum-drenched delicacies. Conversation drifts from stoic philosophy to the scandalous divorce of a fellow senator. Laughter is polite, measured, rehearsed. You speak carefully, always carefully. A wrong opinion, a hint of disrespect to the wrong patrician family, and you might find yourself exiled, or worse, socially dead. Your enemies are not soldiers. They are satirists, informants, rival orators, and old friends who know too much. Evenings of ritual and risk. As the sun sets, you retreat to your villa, perhaps on the Palatine Hill. You write letters, you bribe scribes. You read Cicero's orations and pretend you'll deliver something better next week. There's talk of unrest in the provinces, grain shortages, an ambitious general gaining popularity. But here, in marble halls, those seem distant. Until they aren't. Behind the painted calm is a creeping truth. Senators have fallen before. Wealth does not shield you from exile. Status does not quiet rumors. And yet, every evening you perform the same rites. Offerings to household gods. Prayers for your ancestors. Perhaps a visit from a philosopher or an astrologer who promises you'll rise even higher. You close your eyes on silk cushions, yet you do not sleep easily. You dream of rivals, of mobs, of your name being whispered on a list. But you still rise in the morning, because that is what senators do. A quiet descent. And so ends our journey, not with war or ruin, but with ritual and routine. In a world of golden goblets and bitter politics, the Roman elite lived not freely, but delicately. Their days were embroidered with ceremony, their nights sown with fear. You've walked their corridors, breathed their perfumed air, worn their heavy robes. And now, let it all fade. Let the city go quiet. Let the oil lamps burn low. Let history become once more a whisper beneath sleep. Close your eyes, Senator. You've survived another day in Rome.